Today on Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast. I don't know what it is. It's like you leave your vulnerability at home when you do that.
Kind of a cop-out because I feel like it's everyone's favorite, but
Those are the, quote, boomers that I personally champion.
It's a little bit rapey. We can call it what it is.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast. Today, we will be covering the episode An Uncharmed Life, in which Sailor Mars makes her debut officially. We also have special guest Chris Mayek returning to the podcast today, so we will try to keep the announcements pretty short and sweet. First, we just wanted to remind everybody that we are now Patreon official. If you would like to join the Patreon, just go to www.patreon.com/sunshinefarmentertainment. All of the SFE content will be using the same Patreon for everything. So just go ahead and check that out to get more details. Look at the different tiers that we offer there. The second thing we wanted to let you know about is that we are working on various projects, as you know. One of the ones we have put a little more time in on this past week was uploading VHS tape particulars for many of the Sailor Moon VHS releases. As you know, we watch the podcast from the Sailor Moon VHS tapes. We just happen to really enjoy them for several reasons, as we've talked about on here already. And it is fun for us to get to share the unique details that are why we find all of the different releases so interesting with all of you. So if you want to check those out, right now we have the complete Buena Vista series. That is all of those tapes with the prismatic covers that you remember and the pink and all of that. All of those are up right now, including high definition videos of the box art, so you can see what those look like. And we also have a couple of other things up. I believe Birthday Blues we put up for Usagi's recent birthday. Happy belated birthday to Usagi, June 30th. And Sailor Moon R, the movie. We were able to get up a partial version of what we wanted. If you check out the description on that one, you'll see a link to our website where you can watch the full version of what we wished we could have put on YouTube. But, you know, things are getting a little strict with copyrights, so we got to be careful. And that's all we're really going to announce today. We got a lot to do, so let's get into it. Hit it! Okay, hello?
Hi.
Yay! I can hear you. Okay. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry that was such a trip. So it's been a couple weeks since I've seen you. Just how's your summer going, I guess?
Oh, it's good. What about you?
Pretty good. You know, I made it around the sun another year. I got older. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doing this is fun. It's still new, but I've been doing it for 2 months and it still doesn't feel like work. So I think that's probably a good sign.
Yeah.
I noticed you've been doing a lot of interviews. Do you want to just talk about some of the more recent ones you've done real quick? Just give us a little update.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been good lately. It's just been, again, mostly still voice actors, but a lot of bigger names again, and people who hadn't done any before, like Casey Mangelo, who is Shinji in the redub of Evangelion, and a bunch of other stuff. Ted Lewis was my most recent one, and he had never done one before. He's Bakura in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Giovanni, Snorlax, and Gengar in Pokemon. I have other like really big ones upcoming, and I'm approaching my 250th. I'll hit that on sometime next week. So
that's a lot. How many years have you been doing this so far?
2.
2 years and 250 interviews. That's pretty impressive, I think, in a short amount of time. So congratulations on that. And so far, because this is a Sailor Moon podcast, who do we, like, people who watch Sailor Moon, any iteration of it, who have you interviewed that we would know? I know you talked about Sailor Mars, the original actress. What was her name again?
Katie Griffin.
And then who else do you think we might know about from
Susan Roman, who was the original Jupiter, Linda Valentine, who was Usagi in seasons 3 and 4, Barbara Radecki, who was Sailor Neptune, Rob Tinkler, who was Rubius and Pupudan in the original dub.
Ooh, that's cool.
Tons of people from the original and biz dub. Tara Platt, who is Kaylee Knight in the Viz dub. Not very long ago, I did Amanda Miller, who is Jupiter in the redub. Yeah, just a lot of people from the cast.
I didn't know you had interviewed that many of them. The one that really stuck out just now to me was Neptune, because I remember watching it. I swear she also did Usagi's mom in the first 2 seasons. Okay, cool. Yeah. I always was like, I know this voice from somewhere. So, okay, that's fun. I love that for her, did you ask her? I would have been curious. What was it like going from playing a mom, and then you must have been like upgraded when you're like, oh, I get to be a Sailor Scout now? Did you ask her about that at all?
Yeah, I think I have to like double check, but I don't remember if she also auditioned for Michiru or how that worked. I don't think she did, but it was cool because that was like one of the only instances where, or not the only, but it was pretty rare for that specific dubbing of that first Sailor Moon dub, where her and Sarah LaFleur, who Sarah was the original Haruka, that they actually got to record together in some of the scenes.
Do you know, I think there was also a similar thing with Sailor Mars and Sailor Venus, where in season 1 they were who they were, and then didn't they flip or something, or one of them took over the other one? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I didn't mention this. I don't know how I forgot about it, but I actually interviewed Emily Claire Barlow too, who was Emily is the one who, when Katie Griffin briefly moved to LA to pursue acting work there, she was replaced by Emily Barlow just throughout most of our season 2, and then Katie came back, and then Emily ended up playing she's the one who took over Minako in seasons 3 and 4.
I thought there was something like that went on. And then you said you interviewed the original Jupiter, right? When did you interview her?
That was quite a while ago. That was like fall of 2020 or something like that.
Okay, because I remember, I'm gonna feel bad, so I hope I don't start like an internet thing, but I swear there was an article that the original voice actress for Sailor Jupiter had passed away some like number of years ago. But I'm assuming that was either a hoax or it was possibly another voice actor from the show that I'm not connecting or something like that. Because if you interviewed them, clearly they're not dead. So I guess whoever else saw that article, now we know Sailor Jupiter's still out there. So that's good to know.
That what you're thinking of was probably Susan Aceron, who Susan Aceron passed away, and she was the voice of Setsuna in seasons 3 onward.
That might be what it was. I don't know why I went to Jupiter. I might have combined it with the voice actress who did Ducky in Land Before Time, because Ducky is green. And in my head, I was like, "Oh, Sailor." Anyway, so yeah, that's one. I know we had lost somebody from that, but I wasn't sure who. Well, okay, so that's kind of cool. I'm gonna have to dig into some of those interviews, and you can feel free to say no. But would you mind if I just every now and then put little clips from those in the podcast here or there, just like so people can hear that?
Yeah.
So did you have a chance to watch An Uncharmed Life before today?
Yeah.
Okay. I already did my watch through of it, but
we are going to pause the interview there and play our watch through of Sailor Moon, An Uncharmed Life. I'm so ready for this one. I hope you guys are excited for Sailor Mars. I know I am. I'm not 100% sure, but I think one of the visual things that Deke added is this glowing wave pattern over Queen Beryl's orb that we get sometimes, because I'm having memory. It's been a long time since I've watched the original Japanese of the first season, but I'm having memories of the orb just being more of a solid black. I'm not sure. If you know, comment somewhere, wherever you listen to this. I love when they still, like, frequented the arcade and stuff. They decide not to go. Excuse me. They decide not to go. But... oh, it's the girl with the bob again. Oh, no, she's just a similar friend, I think. They're all talking about the buses that are going disappearing. I'm so curious who does this random side girl, because the voice is just kind of like a high-pitched voice. It reminds me a little bit of Fisheye from Super S when we get there in like a year or two or whatever. But I think it's pretty typical to have one of the main character voice actors cover a lot of the lesser side characters who don't have, show up that often. I'm assuming this is just one of the main girls. This scene where you see Jedi when he's working at the Hiawatha Shrine under the guise of being, what did they call him? I think Jed. We'll find out soon. There's a little scene with him there and sweeping, and there's these girls behind him buying charms. And that is a scene that's used in one of my personal favorite AMVs, anime music videos. It's called Dreams of Red by Aluminum Studios, I believe was the title of it. And it's to the song by Sting. I think it's Sting, right? I'm so embarrassed if I'm wrong. I'll insert something here later if not. But go look up Sailor Mars, Dreams of Red, Aluminum Studios. It's such a great Sailor Mars video. You will love it, I promise. But that scene, to me, it's like deeply connected to that. Grandpa is such a pervert in this show, but I think at least in this iteration of it, they did a good job of making him come off like harmless, goofy old man who would like say crazy things, but you just kind of laugh and walk away and nothing bad ever happens. You know what I mean? I can't remember what his vibe is in the Japanese. I know I read somewhere recently that in the manga, though, he basically is not attentive to Rei, and which is sort of, she does kind of have to step up in the anime too, but it makes her a little more brooding and darker in the manga, whereas in the show, she has those aspects, but she can also be a complete, like, goofball, which I love that about anime Rei, personally. Some people don't like that so much, but I think the humor is nice. I love her and Serena's relationship, personally. She just put the talisman on Serena's face and knocked her out. She looks so funny. Jed/Jedi brings the girls some snacks and stuff. All of them have a crush on this dude who they don't realize he's evil, of course. Molly. Who is that hunkosaurus? I think I gotta start adding some of these clips in. Also, something I didn't pick up on so much when I was younger because I wasn't paying attention to it, I think, but now as an adult, because I know this was dubbed by a Canadian company and predominantly Canadian voice actors, every time they say the word sorry, the sorry comes through so strong now, and I never noticed it before watching it this time through. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really sweet and I love it. But it's just every time they say it, I'm just kind of like slapped in the face with a maple leaf. I just feel a little sticky. Something about, I don't know what to tell you. It's really funny. This rude lady comes in, but of course she's rude because she's like, my daughter was here and then she was just gone forever. Can you help us find her? And then Rei is like, stop blaming me for it, which is also fair. It's what, I don't know. And then Rei kicks her out and they're all like, oh, she's so strong. This is such a funny episode to me. I think the storyline of selling these good luck charms that then hypnotize these girls into getting on a bus, which I think they just get taken in this one. They're like taken to another dimension by the Yoma, where I'm assuming their energy is just continually sapped. So it's kind of like a kidnapping and energy drain situation. I think it's a great setup for a villain in a Monster by the Week show, such as Sailor Moon. I wish we got a touch more on the Yoma storylines. Just like, I don't know, an extra minute or two into that world of like them pulling off these stunts and stuff, or maybe what is the Yoma doing like once they get these people over there. Because okay, so what I mean is, think about back in episodes like Slim City when we got to see Jedi underneath the gym with the capsules, and we saw how the capsules worked and how it was absorbing the energy after they expended all of this stuff exercising. Then they go in there and they're all like amped up because they, you know, endorphins, and it's taking all of this energy or whatever. I liked that, and I wish we had those details more in the rest of the show, is what I'm trying to say. Amy, we should measure that sound on the decibel scale someday. For Serena crying. The bus disappearing is still cool to me. It flies up and into a black hole. They did such a cool job animating that. Luna looks so funny in this still for some reason. I think that might be the thumbnail. Okay, so maybe we're gonna get what I wanted. So the girls are on the bus, all passed out. The bus is now like floating in this other dimension. The bus driver Yoma is like, you can't see their eyes until just now, but before that you could kind of just see their red lipstick, and they kind of seem gender ambiguous, I guess. Rey feeding Phobos and Deimos her crows, named after Mars moons. Or were they asteroids? I think it's moons. Okay, I see what okay, so Grandpa, the dirty old man who lives and works at the Hiawatha Shrine, where young girls are buying good luck charms and then just disappearing. I think in real life, and I think what maybe in more of the Japanese version of the show and possibly the manga, I'd have to check, idea would be that Grandpa is getting scapegoated as the one messing with these girls because he would be the obvious, like, oh, he's the weird one here, when really it's the Negaverse. Also, Luna just casually leaving Sailor Mars her pen because she fully figured it out, and then Mars just finding it. I really love that moment. I love the way it looks just laying on the ground. I don't know. I love when we get to see their items and stuff. The transformation pen and all that. Amy's computer, everything. Also, Sailor Mars / Rey. I love the whole aspect of her praying to the fire and looking. I don't know. I'm connecting so much more with her as an adult than I ever did as a kid. I really enjoy her now. I love how scared Serena is. She doesn't want to get on the bus. She's like, ugh, it's not fun. I get it. Of course she's scared. And then I love how she uses the Luna pen. She's like, I'll feel better if I'm in a disguise. I can weirdly relate to that kind of, because it's like, I wear clothes at home and I can do things at home. I talk to my partner at home in ways that you just can't in public. And everybody who's an adult knows that that's a true thing. Like, and it's not even like bad. It's just, I can be gayer at home than I can in public for my own personal safety. I think that's the easiest way to say it, right? So sometimes it's like I'll put on less colors. I'll wear, more diminutive things when I am uncomfortable about the situation I have to be in that day, maybe. Like if I'm going to the doctor or something or whatever it is. And that does sort of make me feel better because it's like, well, I can leave. I don't know what it is. It's like you leave your vulnerability at home when you do that. It's just something interesting to think about with the disguise pen and why it made her feel confident to get on this bus. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that's fun to think about. Also, she turned into a flight attendant, it looks like, for some reason, to go on a flying bus. I guess that makes sense. I get the logic. Amy gets left behind in this one. Poor girl. Oh, she figured out it was Jed from the fire. Which, I think there is a lot of wisdom to this, because whether you believe prayer or looking into flames or crystal balls or whatever can show you something or not, I think possibly in addition to whatever that might do, it also allows for a time of introspection and to assess the situation, whatever it is you're trying to figure out. You can comb through details mentally. You can check it with logic. You can check it with history. You know what I'm saying? And I think when Sailor Mars is like praying to the fire and stuff, I imagine when she's not having actual premonitions, that is really part of what she's doing, is she's combing through the details of what's been going on, and she's looking at all of the small things that people might be missing, and then she's like, oh my god, there it is. And then she has this moment of an epiphany. I kind of think that's what the fire is meant to represent. You can hear, sorry, I just got like stopped dead in my tracks by the transformation. I love it so much even now. It's so pretty. Oh, that was a cool little effect at the... so there's this really, like, subtle thing in this episode. After her transformation, the crescent moon behind her in her pose kind of... I don't know, it, like, flashes its way into a crescent moon in the background behind her. I'll put a clip of it somewhere on YouTube or something. I love this fight. I just remembered how it goes, kind of. So we get a Moon Tiara action right away, because she's like, let go of this cool girl. The monster's holding on to Ray. Oh, we've got Phoebos and Deimos come in. The tiara misses, does a U-turn, comes back, and then the thing grabs it. Sailor Moon tells the tiara to trap her, and the tiara kind of pops out of the monster's hand and then gets really big and forms a ring around it, and it sort of like creates a magical binding rope. Okay, the one thing that's always bothered me about this episode just happened. Mars pulling out her transformation pen. In that animation for it, that time when we see the pen, the top part of it where it shows her symbol and it has the circle around it and everything is so tiny and not to scale as it should be, and that has bugged me since the first time I ever saw this episode when I was a kid. So I have been sitting on that very slight annoyance since I was like probably 8 years old, maybe 10, and now I'm sharing it with all of you at the ripe age of 30-something. So you're welcome. Her first fire ignite is so epic. It makes this huge pillar of fire that completely... Did she destroy it herself? She did. I think she actually destroyed the Yoma. We're going to keep an eye out. I don't know that happens many times besides this episode, where someone besides Sailor Moon herself actually destroys or heals the target. I think that's really, really rare in this show. We get to see Amy praying with her Mercury pen and create this light pillar that helps them get... she's keeping the portal open. Tuxedo Mask's part in this episode is just to show up after everything's done in the flying bus to drive them out of there. And then he's got a caravan of buses with all the girls who disappeared before. So we get a little wrap up of at least knowing how they saved everybody. Amy's got tears in her eyes because she prayed so hard and she could save them and all of that. Jedi is so mad because there's another one. Fair enough. I mean, they're building their ranks against you. Tuxedo Mask is just gone. Like, peace out. I saved you and everyone. I'm tired. He went to the arcade to see Andrew. You know. I love the rivalry between Sailor Mars and Sailor Moon regarding Tuxedo Mask that we get in this show. It's so cute in the first season. See, Sailor Says is talking about the importance of using public transportation because of all the pollution. that cars and buses and all of that are putting into the world. This is why I love the 90s anime cartoon world so much, specifically because you can see where it was so important to get these messages to us as kids. Like, and the reason for that is people, from what I've observed anyway, a majority of people tend to care the most when they're younger because it's unavoidable. Life has a series of lessons in store for all of us, and you cannot avoid them. And some of them are really painful, and some of them don't make sense, and some of them suck. And some of people have a much, much harder time than others, and that is just how it shakes out. And usually the people who appear not to have a hard time are having a hard time in a way that we don't know about, or we couldn't even imagine sometimes, you know? And it can just be a lot. As you get older, some of the things that seemed so important when you were younger kind of take a back seat because maybe not for me, but I have seen a lot of friends who had children at a younger age, and it was a requirement for the betterment of their lives and their children's lives that they put a lot of their dreams on hold. And I don't say give up on them. I say on hold because realistically, if you have a kid when you're young, that is 18 years that they are required to live with you. And then you absolutely need to be in their lives as an adult and keep supporting them. But once they get to a certain point, I do believe you should start putting your dreams back to the forefront, because just because you had a child, it doesn't mean you have to give up on all that stuff. However, I think some people, because certain responsibilities come up, or like it can be career, it can be family gets sick, whatever, you don't know, whatever it is, things get in the way, and then they never get back to the thing that they always were like, oh, I'm going to do that later. I'm going to do that when I feel better. I'm going to do that when I lose the weight. I'm going to do that this. And then they never get to it, and then people end up jaded and they don't care. And it's after a certain point, I think we're seeing some of this now in the world politically, not only in America, but all across the world. It feels like some people that passed a certain age are like, well, I'm not going to be here anyway, so I'm going to just not give a shit about anything. Not all of the older people are like that. I know several people who are quote boomers, which I hate using that term, but it just tells us, you know, the age group I'm talking about, who are extremely in touch with what's going on. They're actually seeing what the younger people are trying to do. They get the message, but they also see the flaws in how the message is being presented, and they see why maybe it's not being received, and they're trying to help us curate our message better so that we can actually make the change we're trying to make, right? Those are the quote boomers that I personally champion. I think we need them because life experience is invaluable, and we're going to have to start... I don't know. I don't want to talk much more about this because we're getting way off topic, but anyway... My point is, they put these messages in cartoons and stuff like this in the 90s because they knew they needed us to give a crap when we still could, before the world got in there and before life got in there and started beating us down and making us jaded. And I almost got jaded, and thank God I didn't end up there. I'm so happy now to be doing what I'm doing and everything, and I think we all have to find our way back to this place in our own path. Like, I don't know, it sounds woo-woo, but y'all get me. That's why we're here, for a little bit of woo-woo, a little bit of fun. I think there's not much else to say about this episode. Let me think. I said most of it as we were going. I'm really happy we got Sailor Mars in the mix now. Sailor Jupiter's coming soon, but some of my personal favorite episodes are coming up from season 1 that just feature the trio of Moon, Mercury, and Mars. It's a really unique time. There's something about the number 3, the rule of 3 in comedy. A lot of people believe the number 3 is very lucky. So I don't know. There's just a magic in the arc that includes those three before we get to Sailor Jupiter. So I'm really excited to be watching those episodes soon. And I hope you guys have had a good time with An Uncharmed Life. We're going to end the watch through here. And whatever segment is up next, I'll see you there. Bye, guys. And now back to our interview with Chris Mayek.
Just give me your take on it. Go ahead.
I thought it was interesting. Speaking again from, that's what I noticed the most now, but speaking from a art style standpoint, I'd have to check on their name again, but that particular animator didn't do a whole lot with Sailor Moon, but most of what they did was in season 1. And it has a very I don't know like how to describe it. It's a very distinct feel. It kind of makes it, because I noticed that the episodes they worked on too, the monsters of the day, they tend to look creepier. Like the woman who turned the bus driver. Because that was one of the tapes that I had as a kid was that had this episode on it, and I just remember that kind of like freaked me out when I was really young. But watching it again now, I like Jadeite's, like how he looks in the episode, and I like the scenes that he has and the creepiness of his scenes when he pops up, and I like Ray's premonition and how she discovers him, and overall it's another pretty good debut episode for one of the main Sailor Scouts.
I would have to agree, and I noticed the art style differences. I think the best way I could describe it is almost, and even though as you said, the monsters are a little creepier, what I saw when I looked at like Luna and some of the other parts of it, it's almost more cartoonish to me than Japanese typical anime style. And like how the show develops later, it gets more refined in that artistic way, I think. And there's like a specific image I'm thinking of where you see like Amy, Serena, and Luna all standing there watching the bus disappear, and it felt almost, I just got like weirdly Garfield vibes from it or something like that. I don't know, and it's not to say that it's bad, but I think because of our conversation the first time we talked about the different animators, who is the one you mentioned is your favorite again? Give me her name.
Ikuko Ito.
Ikuko Ito, I started paying a lot closer attention to it. And as it turned out, this episode is also one that I had an animation like pet peeve with as a kid. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it's the part when Sailor Mars, they're in the other dimension and she's holding her transformation pen. And like, it's so tiny. And like the little top part looks so dinky and weird compared to every other time you see it, where it's bigger. And do you understand what I'm saying? And it's like the scaling was so off with that one thing that I remember even as a kid, I was like, what is going on with that? Like something is up here. But other than that, I think I love how Jadeite was used in this episode. Something I also talked about in the walkthrough was in these earlier episodes, I think we get more about the monster of the day a little bit than we do later. And I really like that. How I referenced in Slim City, we got to see under the gym how they have those alien pods, and then the whole process of they go and work out and then they end up in this thing and all that. I kind of wish they kept more of that in it later. Because sometimes, like, especially, I wonder if you feel like this, but when we get into Sailor Moon S, every now and then it can be a little bit like, and then here's Moon Spiral Heart Attack again. Do you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that part of it. I wanted to ask you, what are some things about Sailor Mars that you maybe connect with on a personal level? Because I think we can all connect with all of them in some way.
Just the feeling of, being solitary and heavy feelings of loneliness sometimes, and people thinking that, this is more so when I was younger, but people thinking that you're weird because you're into certain things that they don't like, and uh, and I've also always just been fascinated by Japanese history and lore and things involving supernatural beliefs and folklore within Japan. So those are how I can connect with her.
I love the thing you said about the solitary thing, because I know we get a little bit of that in the anime. I think that's a lot more prominent in the manga version of the series, where she's really dealing with being sort of the adult in her situation at a young age, because her grandpa is not taking the best care of her, maybe chasing around the ladies and all of that. And she becomes a lot more brooding and kind of introspective. Whereas she has some of that in the anime, but it's a lot more about her and Serena having a rivalry. And she's used sometimes, I think, as humor to kind of lighten the moment. But then they still hit you with it. Like in Sailor Stars, the part where she disappears, like at the end, and the whole speech between her and Serena. That's like you said in the first time we talked, that's one of those scenes for me. I always get emotional during that part because it was just done so well. And I think her character is probably one of the more layered ones in the show. I think that Naoko put a lot of thought into how she created her and developed her. So I'm excited that we got to, have a conversation about Sailor Mars. Since I saw you last time, we covered several episodes. Have you watched any of those? Do you have any thoughts on some of the past ones? I know we did Sailor Mercury's episode and everything.
Yeah, I did. I was pretty well familiar with Ami's Mercury's debut. That was another one that I always thought was creepy as a kid, because the monster in that episode is even scarier than the one in Mars' debut. And I just thought that the way that Mercury, that Ami gets revealed as Mercury and her power comes out, is very strong, in contrast to her character, having her face shoved against a computer screen and then having the symbol pop up on her forehead, and just how creepy the monster is in that episode too. It's a very stark contrast to how her personality is, but it shows that there's plenty of moments in the series overall where Ami shows that she can really be powerful, and I just think that was a great example of that too.
Yeah, I agree. And with the monster, especially, that one also freaked me out a lot as a kid. And there are certain Yoma or battles where it's like, this is just goofy fun. And then there are other ones where you kind of can't help but be like, this would be horrifying in real life. Like, because I remember the thing, that one has the big axe on its hand, and then you kind of see that appear, and it cuts through its own flesh almost. You know what I'm talking about? And it's just those like little details that really make that very creepy. And Ami definitely is one that I think that teaches us that sometimes it's better to slow down, pull back, and assess things, and not always go charging straight ahead. And I love that message from her. And sometimes using your mind can be way more powerful than like the strongest attack. Because if you use your strongest attack at the wrong time, what's the point? Like it doesn't matter. I think that's cool. One of the other things that I want to touch on, I like when they split into various groups and just seeing how the different mini teams or whatever combine their powers and stuff. We're about to get into the Moon, Mercury, Mars trio arc, which there aren't a ton of episodes, but I love that specifically because we get a lot of character development with them and all that. Do you have any groups, like smaller factions, that are either in the show, in the manga, whatever, that you just particularly enjoy when they do stuff?
Just like regardless of who the characters are?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, this is kind of a cop-out because I feel like it's everyone's favorite, but I just like I love all the stuff with, when the Outer Scouts are doing their own thing.
You mean when they're separate from like dealing with Serena and they're on their own mission and all of that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's so much of a cop out because I think there are all kinds of cool answers. I love my mind is in Sailor Stars when they split them into those interesting duos that you just like, Mercury and Uranus and Mars and Neptune.
Yeah.
So with the outers though, something I always thought about that was cool about that, they did a good job, at least I think in the dub, even though these are all to us now as adults, these are all like younger people, right? But they make the outers feel so adult compared to the inner scouts. And I think maybe that's, even as I'm like older than them now technically, but I still look up to them as characters. Do you know what I mean? Like they did a good job of doing that with them.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I didn't have a whole big outline or anything today. I kind of wanted to let it just go and chat. Is there anything that, because I'm sure you're not like listening intently to all the episodes, but is there anything regarding Sailor Moon or what we've covered so far that any other thoughts you want to share?
Oh, I can talk about another episode that I really like.
Yes.
Episode 6, which is, the cassette tape episode with the monster. That's one of my favorite episodes in general because I think that it's really interesting to me because, in my opinion, it kind of feels like you're watching a standalone OVA of some other anime that isn't Sailor Moon because the direction is so cool. That was actually the first episode that Kunihiko Ikuhara directed, who he did like all the important episodes later. Like he did the finale of Super S, and that was episode 6 was the first one that he directed that Toei gave him to direct for Sailor Moon. And he was also the director and creator of Revolution Girl Utena, if you know.
Yeah, I used to watch that when I was little.
But anyway, episode 6 is one of my favorite episodes because I just think the monster is so cool. The way that it's directed and the shots are so interesting, and I love the horror aspect to it, and just some of the creative art decisions with that, like where that one woman is about to walk into the recording room when the Yoma is in there, and then the Yoma like gets her nails out ready to potentially kill her. Episode 6 is great.
I have to agree. I'm glad you called that one out too, because first of all, it's not included in the original dubs. So we didn't get to see that back in the day. And then what you said also is very true. It feels very different from most of the episodes around it. I didn't know it had a different director, but that makes sense now. And I think I can see what he was going for with it, which is it feels almost like 20s. I don't know. I don't want to say a decade because I'll get it wrong, but like mobster, old timey. I want to say like trench coats. Someone's getting a private investigator. I can see someone's got a magnifying glass somewhere. Like, I don't know why, but it gives those vibes in a way that the rest of the series around it doesn't feel at all that way. It kind of dipped from being this like magical girl, haha, goofy thing, and then all of a sudden it got really serious for a second, and then it went back to being what it was. Do you know by any chance after that one you just mentioned? Do you know the next one he does?
I would have to double check, but I know it was something else in season 1 and season 2. But he directed more episodes as like in season 3 and season 4. He directed more of those, and then he was part of the same group of people that unfortunately him and Iko, but they left after Super S because of the mistreatment by Toei.
That's such a bummer that happened, because we had talked about her art and how Super S was the last season. So I started testing some of my Super S VHS and stuff to kind of get a look at it.
Yeah.
And it's been one of my favorite seasons for a long time for several reasons, despite its many flaws. And I think part of it is the art, because every single, like, all of the villains, their designs are so well done, so intricately done, so much thought is put into them. Even the trio, the Amazon trio, has such a great, like, the story arcs are so well done in Super S for the villains as well as the Sailor Senshi. And then I think something, just this is off topic from today's episode, but it's fine. I've noticed some people seem not to like Super S because they say that, oh, Sailor Moon just like lost all this character development she goes through at the end of S and blah, 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 and all of that. And I think they're missing the point, which is whenever someone goes through something traumatic and has a horrible experience like loss, severe loss, or a trauma that is going to leave a mark on you, usually what happens is after that, they go back to levity. They find a way to find humor in it because laughter is the best medicine. And I think that is, and also leaning into dreaming and all of that. I think that's what Super S was meant to be, was we just had this horribly intense moment where the entire world was almost destroyed by a Sailor Scout. Now it's time for Serena to kind of breathe a little bit before her final, arc or whatever. That's just the way I see it. I mean, feel free to disagree, but I'm really curious, what are your thoughts on Super S and how it lands in the series as a whole and all of that?
I'm sort of like you. I enjoy it a great deal. That might just be because it was also with S. It was one of the main seasons that I grew up with, and I still own VHS from. But again, it goes back to the series, the anime adaptation being at its peak in terms of art style and art quality. There's plenty of episodes I really love and I still love and I have memorized, like Mako's Dream Mirror episode, Minako's Dream Mirror episode, the episode, the ballerina episode with Fisheye, the fashion designer episode with Fisheye. I think the only thing that didn't really age very well was how it looks when the Amazon trio is looking into people's dream mirrors, because it kind of, especially with women and the way that, like, whenever they're looking in their dream mirror, the way that their face gets all red and they're screaming, and
it's a little bit rapey. We can call it what it is. That was literally my exact thought, but I think that was intentional, and I think that's okay, because I think what it was meant by Naoko Takeuchi to be was.
That is where we are going to cut off the interview for today. I know it is kind of in a rocky spot. We left it there intentionally for a few reasons. One, obviously we want you to come back and listen next week. But two, the function of art, the function of creative people in our culture is to comment on society. And this is a touchy subject, and it's a little bit more serious than we typically like to get into on Moonstar. But it is also one of the many reasons why we love Sailor Moon so much. There is a way that the series has of dealing with some difficult issues, I guess we'll call them. And it's like, as a kid, I think a lot of us didn't catch that, and I don't think we were supposed to. I think those are the messages that sometimes are put in for the adults, for maybe the older teens who are watching the show, so they can see, this type of behavior is categorized with a villain for a reason, because if you do stuff like that, it is bad, right? But the kids might not get like the direct reference. And I think if you watch a lot of other shows that were made for, quote, children, there are a lot of like dual meanings hidden in most media that is that way. Like, there's stuff that's in the shows for the kids, but then there's stuff that's in the shows for the parents who have to watch with the kids, And I think this might have been one of those things I was sort of like Sailor Moon's way of tackling a very difficult and touchy subject without being very direct about it in a way that, because back then you couldn't be so direct, you know? But anyway, we'll leave the rest of that conversation for next time. And if you want to hear Chris and I get more into detail about that and more of Super S, definitely tune in next week because we will be putting a little bit more of the interview there. If you liked what you heard today on Moonstar, a Sailor Moon podcast, you can support us in the following ways.
Leave Moonstar a 5-star review, wherever you listen. Subscribe to the Sunshine Farm Entertainment channel, and be sure to like any videos you watch. Do it for the algorithm. Go to our website, www.sunshinefarmcollectibles.com. Either show your support by making a purchase from the store, or navigate to the Moonstar podcast page and click the donation button. Even $1 lets us know we are making content that you enjoy. Follow other Sunshine Farm Entertainment projects, such as podcasts including Put a Cherry on It, The Magic Skill Bus, Cute Card, a Card Captor podcast, and SMAS the series. YouTube series including vintage anime unboxing videos, 90s anime video vaults, retro gaming content, and more. If that's not enough, treat yourself with kindness and remember, you can always transform.